It's time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal, everybody. I'm host Mike Adams, sitting in the cabin tonight with Dan DeFaw. Before we get started, we want to help you save some money.
That's right, folks. Don't forget to use our promo codes to save that money. And let's start off with buckbaits.com. That's right, the brick and mortar store of Buck Baits down at Sterling Heights, Michigan at 15 and Dodge Park. Go over there. If you're on the website, buckbaits.com, use the promo code UNJ20. That will get you 20% off your order.
For those of you who are looking for Easy Cut products, make sure you go to easycutproducts.com. And when you're there, use the UNJ promo code UNJ15 off to save 15% off your order.
And let's not forget Lincoln Roan over at packermax.com. It's never too early, never too late to think about the Packer Max. Go on over to packermax.com, use the promo code UNJ25. That'll get you $25 off your order over at Packermax Outdoors.
For those of you looking for some new firearms and firearm products, make sure you go over to theislandarmory.com. While you're there shopping, use the promo code UNJ10 to save 10% off your order there.
If you shot that bird of a lifetime and you want it mounted, don't forget Troublesome Creek Taxidermy. We've had them live on the show. We've talked to them. You want to get 10% off your order, go to Facebook, go to troublesome.creek.7, find their website. If you go to our website, UNJ, make sure to click on the button to download the form. You get 10% off over there using the code UNJ10.
Looking for that game call, whether it be a squirrel, whether it be goose, duck, deer, make sure you go to JPO Game Calls. Look for them at jpogamecalls.com, and while you're there shopping, use the UNJ10 promo code to save 10% off your order.
And Miller Deer Tracking, the man that seems to never sleep during deer season. Get 20% off your next deer tracking using the promo code UNJ20. Look for Miller Deer Tracking on Facebook or give him a call over at 810-240-4891.
Looking for the hottest new plastics to take on the water, whether it be hard water or soft water? Make sure you go over to southernindianabaitco.com. While there, use the UNJ promo code UNJ10 to save 10% off your order.
Deer Camp Coffee, folks. We drink it every night on the show. You want to try it? You can go to the brick and mortar store at 15 and Dodge Park at Deer Camp itself, or go to deercampcoffee.com. Also use our promo code UNJ10. You get 10% off your order. And don't forget, get a bag of the UNJ medium roast blend there as well.
All right, Danny, where's our live view camera look from tonight?
Hey, Mike. Where do you think we're going to go this time? You know, you really like going to Isle Royale. I think we need to go up to Greenstone Ridge in Isle Royale just for you because you want to go backpacking.
I would like to go up there sometime. That's a good place to go tonight, man. Nice looking sunset out there at the southwest end of that island.
You know, it's 55 degrees up there.
Almost all the way up to Canada, and it's still 55 degrees here in Michigan. So
I was just about to say, November 2nd, here we are, 55 degrees, and yeah. And it's supposed to be nice all week for the next week. So
there you go.
Right? So how are you?
Guys, what's going on? I want to welcome everybody to the new look Up North Journal. We got her open there, so it's a little easier getting into the show and getting going. We're rocking and rolling right now, so welcome to everybody, and it's let us know what you think about that. It's pretty cool. We're going to try to do a different webcam every week if we can. That's the whole plan or idea of it. So I got to make things easier on Danny. So Mark Coleman, what's going on?
It's 72 degrees in Indiana today.
It's about 82 right here in the cabin. I am roasting right now.
Well, you got that hoodie on, so.
Yeah, well, I've been a little under the weather, and that's the reason that we're all separated tonight. Is I had to go out and get a stupid virus, so.
Well, and then you passed it around your house, so.
Mm-hmm. That's the reason we didn't have a show last week.
Right, and I guess you're sharing. But, with this weather coming the way it is, I tell you what, it's November 2nd, so we're only 13 days away from the national holiday here in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, when does your gun season open?
It opens the 12th of November, so we're getting real close. So not this weekend, but the following weekend. So I'm taking Thursday, Friday off next week to finish up a little bit of archery hunting before the Orange Army shows up on Saturday for firearm season.
So you got a fistful of tags, you ready to rock and roll?
That's the great thing about being a landowner. I learned this year from my CO in our district that I'm the trustee of the trust, And I'm allowed to, since I live in Indiana, I can harvest deer with landowner permits.
Okay.
So I've already checked in one doe, and I'm legally allowed to take up to 10.
Okay, so you personally can take 10.
Yeah.
Does your name have to be on the land itself?
My name has to be listed as either a beneficiary that's a direct immediate family member and live in Indiana, or be the trustee of the trust,
okay.
which I'm both. So yeah.
you and your family members, whoever's on that trust, can actually each take 10.
Yeah, so my 3 brothers, 2 of them live in Indiana, 1 lives in Ohio. The one that lives in Ohio doesn't hunt anyway, so just my 2 older brothers that live in Indiana, they have the same rights as long as they hunt on the farmland.
Okay.
They're allowed to check deer in under that landowner permit based on that Indiana code, whatever it is, 30-something.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Is there restrictions on those tags? I mean, is it buck, doe? You know,
$1.
$1.
$1, yep, all antlerless after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, does that, if you took a buck on your landowner tag, do you still have a buck tag for other places?
No.
Oh,
well,
a buck's a buck's a
I
buck.
don't think so. I'd have to ask that. I did go ahead and buy a buck tag anyway because my brother's property borders the farm, and I just want to make sure if I shoot a deer over in that space, and it's the buck of a lifetime, that I'm legally, following the rules there.
Right. I gotcha.
But that's $39 versus spending, the bundle was like $95 or something.
Yeah, so, I know it went up quite a bit for out of staters this year, from what I heard.
Yes.
That made my decision a lot easier to stay home this year. So Danny, what's going on, man? It's I don't know. It's kind of weird not having you here to smack around here on my side.
I know, right? It's one of those things that, hey, we got to watch ourselves this day and age with all the viruses going around and whatnot. But, we're just getting into November here. The real life work is pretty busy. But, last week we had a couple people up at the cabin. We got a good report of a nice buck taken. A nice 7 point. So I'm looking forward to end of next week getting up there for a week and getting the bow and the gun out and chasing after some deer.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's I've kind of started getting the itch now. I mean, when you spend 5 days at home contemplating life and how did I get myself into this mess when I got this stupid virus, I started getting the bug, getting ready, and doing a lot of thinking about what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, and all that. And I actually put in for my 3 days off this week. So I'm going to have a 5-day weekend, a long weekend, actually, that'll carry me through the last 3 days of bow season and the first 2 days of firearm season. So hopefully I'll bring something home.
That'll be awesome. So I hope everybody brings something home, because got to fill up the freezer for the winter, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. I think you said that you went, I think last time we talked, you were down to your last steak that day that you were using up.
Yeah, I think so, but that was up in Saginaw at her house. I got to thinking the other night when I was laying in bed contemplating life. I said, I think I've still got a few packages of steaks down in my freezer. Most of it I kept up there because she does a lot better job cooking it than I do. So, but I did have some here at the house, and I think I might still have a few steaks left. I'm not really sure. I'll have to go take a look.
Well, I got some steaks left, and I want to turn them into jerky, but I'll probably have to wait till I get back from up north, because I won't have any time over the weekend because I'll be busily packing. But Mark's been successful this year already.
Yeah, he didn't waste any time getting out there and getting the job done. So Mark, I know you did an archery hunt here and managed to put some groceries in the freezer. So take us through what happened, man. What's going on down there in Indiana where you're at?
Well, I'll tell you what. I got 2 days off a couple weeks ago to go archery hunting. I think it was October 20th, 21st, and the 22nd. Mm-hmm. And on Thursday the 20th, it was warm out. Got on the stand, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That morning, I saw nothing but turkey. Took a few videos of them. But that afternoon, I sat in the elevated platform blind that we call the shack at the corner of a bean field that had just been harvested like 4 days prior. And was sitting there, and my brother was hunting 400 yards to the north of me at another bean field. And about 5:30, the deer started moving. We had a nice little high rack 8-point come in, fed on beans about 56 yards from me. And he was really just kind of patrolling the edge of the field downwind of a bedding area and just making his rounds. He went back in probably within 3 minutes. He was back in the woods. And then a doe and a fawn came out, then another doe and a fawn, and then a couple of doe came out at 92 yards south of me, right at the edge of the field. and they were just hanging out. And there was a trail camera down there that was sending me pictures, even though I could see them. It was sending me the backside of the deer, and they were feeding on the food plot that I put in there, which was the honey hole with Antler King, and they were just feeding in it. My brother had texted me, and he's like, "Hey, do you hear them dirt bikes south of you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they're pretty loud." He's like, "Man, I hope they don't spook the deer." And it wasn't even a minute later, those two deer spooked and ran right towards my blind. And I knew they were going to cut in front of my blind to go out of the field and in the woods and come in on my left. So I just went ahead and spun to the open window to my left. And sure enough, it was like over in just like 10, 15 seconds. By the time they sprinted that field, came into the woods, I picked the bigger of the two. I would say less than 8 yards. I mean, it was really close. My crossbow sighted in at 20, 30, 40, and 50. Mm-hmm. So at 8 yards, I had to really kind of adjust my shot, let her fly, and I knew I made a good shot. The doe disappeared. I turned around. My brother texted me. He's like, "Hey, did you just shoot?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "But stay where you're at. I still got deer in the field. We might be able to get a double tonight." And we waited till it was dark after legal shooting light, got down, checked my bolt, and there wasn't any blood on the bolt. And I thought, what did I do? Did I clip a limb? Mm-hmm. It's close range. Maybe I didn't aim low enough. One of the blades was a little bit bent, and I was like, boy, I really thought I made a good shot. And then I happened to shine the flashlight just a little bit to the left to where I picked up the bolt, and there was blood on a leaf. And I'm like, yeah, I did hit the doe. Mm-hmm. So I texted my brother back and said, "Come on over. We've got a tracking job to do." He made his way across through the woods there. She was laying 40 yards from where I shot her. Fortunately, she didn't go down the ravine. She just kind of stayed on top of the hillside. Drug her out to the field, went and got the pickup truck, and drove it across the field. Of course, by then it's completely dark. And the trail camera, of course, picked up the pickup truck driving across the bean field.
Yeah, it's a nice picture of somebody cutting across the bean field there.
Yeah. So the trail camera, there's some controversy over how far that trail camera can pick up something and trigger. Mm-hmm. But I've had it pick up a flock of turkeys at 90-plus yards.
Really?
And there's been some controversy back and forth. Oh, that wasn't what triggered it. There was something closer up that triggered it. But I've got multiple photos of those turkeys as they move across the field.
Right.
I've had my truck picked up at 100 yards on the north end of that field. So, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. I just know I got a photo of my truck cutting across that field. Threw her in the back, took her up to where we usually field dress the deer, unzipped her, took her about 5 minutes to field dress her. Checked her in online. First time I've ever had to check her in online using a landowner permit. I've always had, a tag to choose. And fortunately, the conservation officer told me, so, well, there'll be a check-in, drop-down for landowner permit. Choose it.
Right.
And you put in the same information you do if it's just regular tag, where you shot it, what time you shot it, the gender of the deer, what county you're in, that kind of stuff. Then it gives you a confirm number, screenshot it on your phone, take it with you to the processor. So wrapped all that up, got the processor at about 8:30 that night. And once I got out there to the processor, I take it to Back 40, which is an Amish processor here in the small town of Rockville. And he came out, helped me unload it, checked it in. I was deer number 57 for him. So that was the 20th day of October, so 20 days into the season. And I was number 57. He called me 4 days later and said, your deer's ready.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, that's fast.
About 3 a day then.
Yeah. And he said it'll pick up. They usually process anywhere between 500 and 750 deer during the first part of the season.
Okay. Well, Danny, he's mentioning numbers the first 20 days of season. Did you happen to look up yet and see where we stand right now in the state of Michigan?
I just did, matter of fact.
I know you too well.
As of 7:45 p.m. on 11/2/2022, we have a grand total of 68,299 reported via the app.
Okay. How many deer do we usually take a year? 250,000 roughly?
Yeah, roughly about that, right?
So we're putting, how many did you say? 60 what? 68?
68,000.
Okay, so say 70,000, round it up a little.
Right.
We're already over, no, not quite a third. We're close to a third though already, and it's not even. I mean, and we still got all of gun season to go, which we know the number is going to explode.
Right.
Right. Exactly. And looking at the top counties up here in Michigan, we're looking at now this is for antler. Mm-hmm. Mount Calm, Lapeer, and Saginaw are our top 3.
Okay.
And for antlerless, we're going to go Lapeer, Newaygo, and St. Clair.
Okay.
So, it's adding up. Here we go. And down in Indiana, Mark, when you call in, is there a way that you can check to see what your current numbers are at that time?
There is a place, the Indiana DNR website, I think, posts the current deer totals. I see it on Facebook occasionally with the page that I follow there. So they kind of give a running total as the season progresses. I don't think we're near the 200,000 for a season, or through all the season. Okay. I want to say we're closer to 150 to 175 when we're done.
Okay. Yeah, to me that sounds familiar, vaguely familiar, but that sounds about right from what I remember reading in the deer reports, the annual deer reports from about 3 years ago.
Yeah, we've dramatically reduced the bonus antlerless permits, like 1 or 2 per county, where used to you could get up to 8 or 10 depending on what county you live in.
Yeah, and you guys are a 1 buck state too. I mean, not that we shoot a lot of extra bucks because we are a 2 buck state. They say, what is it, Danny? Like 6%? Is that...
Well, it's a really low number that actually uses a second tag.
Yeah.
So it's less than 6.5%, I think, what it is.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that it says here between 2018 and 19, there was 364,000 deer taken.
364,000 here in the state of Michigan?
Yeah.
You know what? I may be thinking buck numbers versus doe numbers. That might be why. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Right. So, as we, here in Michigan, Mark, as we go through this mandatory deer check and how it's going, it's good to see numbers rolling in. Good to see people doing it. You got your deer back. Have you had any of it yet? Has it hit the table?
No, it has not. Actually, I haven't had a chance since I had to work last weekend to get down to the farm, down to where the processor's at. So Saturday, I'm going to run down, pick up my deer meat, bring it back home. We actually got some ground deer venison in the fridge. We're going to make chili. Probably tomorrow evening we'll make a thing of chili. But the next deer I get will be processed and probably do some summer sausage, get some jerky made out of it. I'm not as handy as you, Danny. I can't make my own jerky. But the processor does a really good job of fixing it.
I can tell you how to do it. It's real easy. Just checking for you, Mark. Last year, you guys took 112,000 deer last year, and you were down from the previous year of 124.
Wow. Yeah, I knew it wasn't anywhere near 200,000.
Yeah, we put a lot of deer down up here. That doesn't include what they kill with the car.
So, right.
Yeah. Now, I counted 4 dead deer on the way home from work. About a 45-minute drive.
That's it?
That's it for now. That I could see from the road. None of them in the road. They were all in the ditches.
Yeah, ours are about 4 per mile.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Now, do you process your own deer or no?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, when I can. Most of the time I do. I don't like taking it to a butcher if I don't have to.
I just was curious if inflation has caused the processing price to go up.
I imagine it has. It probably has. I don't know what it's going to cost this year. But if I have something done into summer sausage, if I'm lucky enough to get a second one, then we'll take the second one and put everything but the back straps. Well, I don't know. I'll probably take the whole thing and have the whole thing put into sausage, to tell you the truth. So It's hard to say. I don't know. Danny and I may get together and do up a batch too. So it's hard to say.
Right, exactly. And I'm just checking your numbers, Mark. As of 7 o'clock tonight, you have had 20,626 registered.
Okay.
One of them is mine.
Right? So you're a third of our total at this point, right?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, guys, we're running just a tad long here in the first segment, so let's go ahead and step outside. We take our first break. We come back. We'll continue talking about some deer hunting here. I was up last weekend, my birthday weekend.
Yes, your birthday weekend.
And then I got some stuff here I want to throw at you, too, as well. So we're going to step outside, take our first break, and we'll be right back after.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible
by basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
right, second segment of the show tonight. In the cabin here with the guys. Danny's in his cabin, and all the way from Indiana down in his cabin, we got Mark Coleman tonight talking a little bit about some deer hunting. Man, it's on the doorstep right now. Danny, you've been up once, haven't you?
I was up early October, but I was going to ask Mark, we're talking November 2nd here. When I was up 1st of October, I did not see no rutting activity. To me, it was kind of early. I didn't even see, no rubs, no scrapes, nothing like that. But Mark, how have you been? Have you been seeing anything down in Indiana way?
It's starting to pick up down here this week. Actually, last night before, I'm starting to see the bucks start moving towards the daylight, that twilight area before daylight, that twilight before dark in the evening. Used to, they were just nocturnal and they were just running around. Now they're actually starting to get closer to their legal shooting hours, and they're starting to hit the scrapes a little more. We got some rain finally, so that as soon as the rain stops, they're out there. They're opening up all these scrapes. They're rubbing trees a lot more now, so we're starting to really kind of figure out where that rub line's at, where that buck's hanging out the most. And I'm just anxious. I'm just chomping at the bit to get back out there because I know anywhere I sit out there, I'm probably going to encounter a cruising buck somewhere. And the older does are starting to come into cycle with their estrus. The young bucks, they don't know what to do, but they know something's changed. So they're following their nose, trying to figure it out as they go. The older bucks, they're starting to kind of establish their dominance. I do have one 10-pointer's already lost half his rack. I got him on trail cam photo where obviously he's trying to establish his territory and got the worst end of a fight. I did get a nice, I think it was an 8-pointer the other night that came up to my trail camera, basically right in front of the trail camera, beat up a small tree, and he has a really roughed up spot on his back.
Yeah, you can see it in the photo here.
Yeah, so I don't know if he got broadsided by another buck. We do have a few on the property that, got some pretty straight up high racks. Mm-hmm. But I think that one right there that you're looking at is what I would call a bully buck. Mm-hmm. I think he's the biggest, strongest buck on the property. He may not have the mass in his antlers, but he's just the meanest buck on the property.
Gotcha. Yeah, you sent a couple photos to me too. Here you got some puppy dogs running around. It looks like.
Yeah, we got a match set there, Double Trouble. That if the opportunity comes, I've decided I will go ahead and eat the cost of a broadhead to take one of those out.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you one bit.
Mark, looking at that photo of the buck that you have, I noticed you got a little setup going on that I had to look at it before when we were kind of pre-doing the show. That's not a real tree there, is it?
No. That's my first attempt 3 years ago to create my own rub tree. And I just took a landscape timber, put it in an old Christmas tree holder, and then threw some stones at the bottom to keep it balanced. And then I added flagpole holder posts, the little flagpole holders, to each side and just cut off a branch and stuck it in there.
Now, is that a rope hanging down?
That is a hemp rope, 3/4-inch hemp rope. I decided to try that this year just to see if maybe the bucks would use that to kind of rub their glands on.
Are you using any orbital gland lure on that at all?
No, not yet. I did have one buck stop by the other night, but he was more intrigued by the hanging pine branch than he was the rope.
Okay.
He kind of, leaned back, lifted his head way up, just kind of nosed that little branch a little bit. But that buck that showed up on camera the other night that got real close to camera, he pulled the ground a few times there, kind of making his little spot. But then he took out some aggression on that little bitty tree. That tree's been kind of the focal point for a lot of birds to land on. Squirrels climb up there. But no, that was my first attempt to a rub tree. I've since learned that the landscape timber is not the best use for a rub tree, but a soft white pine limb will work better. They just absolutely love that soft pine.
Okay. Danny, I don't know if you're paying attention to the comments, but Randy Stoppenhagen from C3 Mitts said that saw a great buck chasing a doe on the 20th of October. So there is some chasing going on. And I assume that's here in Michigan because he was in Michigan, I think. When I was up north last 10 days ago now-ish, I saw 22 deer in one sit. I spent the whole day out in a tree stand from before daylight till dark and had one shot at a yearling doe and just let it walk. I wasn't going to burn a tag on such a small doe. Everything else was too far away, but I saw two nubbin bucks is all I saw. But the nubbin bucks were bumping, and I think they were more playing than anything and chasing. But I did see From what I could see off the green field, what spot I could see, the deer were busting off the field quite regularly, and I think there might have been a bigger buck sitting around there, possibly coming out and checking things out. So that's all.
Were you sitting along the edge of a field or just inside the wood line?
No, let me. Actually, I got a couple photos here. I'll throw up.
Well, poor Randy. Randy came to Michigan. As I'm scrolling through the comments, he came to Michigan. He hunted 2 days, and then COVID invaded his space. So he spent the next 5 days in a hotel, and until he got home. And now he's slowly getting better. And it wasn't kind of the best trip.
So he's the one that brought it to Michigan. That's the reason I got it.
Okay, we'll go with that.
I see
right?
now, Randy. Thanks, man. Because that's about the time I got back from up north hunting, and I want to see, what day did I catch that? It was last Wednesday, which would have been the 27th, 28th, something like that.
Right.
So, yeah, it was right after I got back. But no, I don't know if you guys can see here, if you guys are watching, but this is sitting up 20 feet up in my stand, and it's an old 2-track that we stay off of now, except for farm equipment. And if you look, straight out over my stabilizer bar in the photo, you can see a little light green patch. That's how far away I am from the field. Yeah, I'm probably a good 100, 150 yards away from the near edge. And I could see deer out there.
You could see what was going on out there. You just couldn't shoot out that far.
Yeah, exactly. And and to the left of me, on the other side of that road, is a maple and oak stand that actually goes up a pretty good incline. We call it the ridge. The oak and maple ridge. So we're going to be doing some logging in there this year, here in December, I think. So. And to the right of me is a swamp bottom. So, and right behind me is actually spring-fed creek, little creek. That's where it kind of starts out at.
So, is there an acorn crop there this year?
No, there's not, unless these deer actually completely went Hoover vacuum cleaner on it and got everything.
Wow.
But no, that's the one thing, is we did not see a mass crop, which kind of disappointed me. So not much you can do about it, but here's another shot. This is early in the morning, right after sunrise. So,
did you see any? So you said you saw 22 deer during the day. Did you see anything referring to health of the deer going into the winter? Are you looking and saying, okay, they're looking healthy? And was there any sign of the rut for you in mid-Michigan?
Just the only thing I saw that looked like any activity for rut was those young nubbin bucks. Little button bucks, or like maybe an inch long spike. I could see them in my binoculars. But I don't know if it was more playing than chasing. If they're at that age, they're still trying to figure out what to do. So
right, exactly. And then they'll be like young kids running around the woods, not sure knowing what to do, but they're having fun.
Yeah. No. As far as the health of the herd, I only had the one come by me right down this side of this 2-track, and it was. I'm like, oh, there's a doe. Oh, that's a little doe. Yeah, okay, no big deal. Won't go back to my glasses and start, my field glasses, and start looking, watching the field again of what was up in front of me. There was nothing that caught my eye and said, wow, she's malnourished. And nothing that I was looking at with the binoculars. I couldn't say that either. I think everything's pretty much status quo. I did see some deer in front of the lodge. I watched them the next morning, and they all seemed extremely healthy. There was no issues there with that. So
the deer. You sat all day, right? So what did you do? I mean, you sat all day long, right? You got in there before daylight, probably.
Yeah. Yep. Walked in. It's about a mile to where that spot's at from camp, and I just walked in and cut up off the high ridge, cut down to the low spot, and jumped in the stand and sat there all day long.
How do you keep yourself focused? I mean, you had to pack a lunch or snacks, right?
Yeah, I did. And, there's something here, like in the picture, you can see the 2 bars sticking out behind me, and I got my quiver up on the tree there. And I'll allude to some of that here in just a minute, too, because there's a system I use for that, and I want to show that.
Okay.
I have shown that before, but it's been quite a while. Actually, I'm going to put the other picture up here. It shows it a little better. But... I don't know. At my age, you watch and you find things to amuse yourself. You've got a cell phone now that you can take, and if you've got signal, you can sit and, play on your phone or read stuff or, watch something. I mean, I wasn't watching any videos or anything, but, I would entertain myself with that when I got really bored and there was absolutely nothing going on, like in the middle of the day.
Right.
But other than that, If you, let me go back to this other picture here. I got
that's one thing. What like you said, I know you've taken books out there and in the blind and whatnot. You read a book.
Well, and here though, I'm in the wide open, so I couldn't. I mean, I could have, but it wouldn't. It would cause too much commotion. It'd have been too easy.
For sure.
But,
and it's that whole mental game, right? Yeah. It's like you get the highs of the morning, lows of the and then the high of the evening.
I got my binoculars. Those are my my Vortex 10x42. So I mean, I can see quite a ways, and I'll glass through the timber, to see if I see any movement, and I watch birds and whatever. I don't know. It's a mental game. It really is, and it can be taxing at times. But you spend the money on the tags, and I didn't really know with my work schedule how much I'm going to get to hunt this year. And when you spend money on tags and money on gas and food, and you go up, and you've been looking forward to it, and you're looking at the weather report, and as the week gets closer, the weekend, the temperatures keep increasing. I mean, I was sitting out there, and it was 72 degrees in the middle of the day, and I mean, it was hot, and I had to take my jacket off. I had a scent-lock hoodie on underneath that. I was like double layered on the exterior plus my base layer, but it was hot. It's a mind game. It's all mind game. Mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter.
Right. So Mark, how do you do it?
Like a stand-up, sit-down? Did you have a method to stand up, sit down, or you had to get up and stand up eventually, right?
Yeah, I'd stand up and stretch. Especially, I mean, I call it old man syndrome. You got to make water. I try to limit my intake of fluids before I go out in the morning, but it happens. So I had an empty Powerade bottle. I cut the plastic wrap off of it so it didn't crinkle.
Right.
And I have that in my backpack, and that's what I use, and then when it got full, in the middle of the day, it was full, and I'm like, okay, well, now it's time. I got middle of the day, I'm going to get down, heat of the day, and like I said, right behind me it's a wet spring. I went down, walked down to where, it was a little mushy, and I took the bottle and went right to the ground and poured it right on the ground, down close, tight to the ground, away from my stand, and went back and got in the stand. I took power bars, granola bars, Cliff bars with me. I had that. I had a jar of peanuts that I take with me, and I have a thermos that I take the Hunter's Blend coffee with. And, I drink it black. I don't put any frou-frou flavor or nothing in there. I mean, I just had straight up plain black coffee, because even that has an aroma. But, and people, I've heard both sides of the story. If you got an unusual odor, it'll either attract deer or it'll scare them. And I've had deer walk up on me within 10 feet as I was pouring coffee. They walked up behind me, and I was hunting in Illinois with a buddy of mine. We were sitting on the ground and hunting on this ridge overlooking this little swale. He wants some coffee? Yep. So he opens up his thermos, and he's pouring coffee, and he says, okay, here you go. And I turn around to grab the little cup, and right over his shoulder was 3 does, and they were... they were trying to smell it. I don't know if they're trying to smell us or smell the coffee, but obviously the coffee aroma was strong enough they could smell it. And I'm like, I'm kind of like frozen. And he kind of like, here, And I go, look over your shoulder. Of course, they bust.
Right.
But we call that finally we refer to that as the hunt with coffee with does. So if you ever hear me refer to that, that's what that's about.
Yeah. Did you say you took 27 apples and 2 pounds of carrots?
Yeah, right. No, there's no baiting in Michigan. None.
In the lower peninsula.
In the lower peninsula. Where Danny's at.
That's a lot of snacks to eat at one time.
Yeah. No, I don't take apples. I don't take anything crunchy like that. Well, I take that back. I have taken apples one time, and my daughter screamed at me in the blind, "Quit eating apples! You're ruining my hunt."
Oh, wow.
That's first and last time I've ever taken an apple. But no,
so I just quick survey of you guys. You mentioned trying to keep the smell down, the aromas down, black coffee. In my opinion, I have literally peed in a scrape, and 9 hours later, a 14-point buck walks up and smells where I've been.
Yep.
It doesn't get alerted, just comes up and checks it out and moves on.
Yeah, we've talked about that before on the show. I've talked with a lot of people. My dad used to do the same thing. My dad would actually pee right down the tree, so it would run down the side of the tree. So you had this big, long wick, basically, of urine smell, in the air. And I've done it too. But, it's just a hot day, and I just took care of it that way, and I don't know. My philosophy on hunting, it'll change from one year to the next. I mean, I was like, well, that didn't work last year. I'm going to try this. So.
Yeah, I like to experiment too.
It's
that's the whole point, right? Is you get all these different, no scent. You hear people talking about how they light up a cigarette or a pipe, or they do a certain whatever, like you said, Mike, black coffee, and all of a sudden here comes a deer, right? So I think deep down the inquisitive nature of the deer brings them in, but then also they're very, very well versed in what their woods looks like.
Yep, and smells like.
Yep. Yeah. So, if you're standing next to a tree, they're going to pick that out. Yeah. And, I just...
Well, I could smell how do I want to say it? The mustiness of the swamp as I was sitting there, you could, especially in the morning, because in the morning, the earth's warming up and the heat's rising, and I'm right on the edge of it. I can hear the water trickling out of the side of the little cut on the embankment running into the stream. It's that close, and I can smell, the black muck, that's in the area. So, I wasn't really worried, especially first sit of the season. I took my time going in. Matter of fact, when I go in, I always take and strap on, depending on the temperature. I usually go out in my base layers and walk out and take my outer garments and strap them to the sides of my backpack, lash them to it. And when I get to the stand, I'll actually put my stuff on so I'm not sweating. Right. I don't like getting to a stand and being wet, especially if it's cool in the morning and all of a sudden temperature drops and you're putting stuff on. You can actually get hypothermia. If it really changes and gets nasty. I don't want to smell, and I don't want wet clothes. That's the two main things.
Now, do you listen to the nature and the sounds of nature while you're out there to kind of as an indicator that deer might be approaching?
Oh, yeah.
I posted a picture the other day on another site for tack camp, and the controversy over a blue jay sitting on a limb in front of my camera, and the comments were, listen to the blue jays, they'll tell you where the deer are. Listen to the blue jays, they'll tell you what's moving in the woods. Listen to what they call and how they call. Where they're trying to let people, let other critters in the woods know something's coming or moving. It's kind of impressive to hear some of the discussion around that.
Yeah, if you're in tune with what's going on out there, I do believe that. Even in the early morning, you'll hear, like I heard 2 hoot owls going at it. That morning, they were ways apart in different directions, but it could have been me. They could have heard me or seen me, and that's what it could have been. But and listen, we had trumpeter swans come in, and I hear them come in every year this time of year. They'll come into the lake, and I heard them that morning. So it's just I listened and dig all that stuff. I had a little chickadee, a black and white one, flutter and land like right here, and I'm like, oh hey there, little guy, and in a little branch that was right by my head. So.
Yeah, I listen to squirrels too, and the squirrels start barking. Usually, they're trying to tell everyone else around them there's danger or there's something that shouldn't be there. Yeah.
So
that it's funny you talk about that. That's a lot of the kill is seconds, but a lot of the recon that you're learning, like you said, the blue jay or the squirrel or other deer, and seeing how they react when they start looking past you, or you watch their ears, and all of a sudden they're focused, and all of a sudden you catch movement like directly behind them, more deer coming in. That's one of the things we teach other hunters, young hunters and experienced hunters when we do that's just as important as actually being out there hunting, is learning what the other animals tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the temperature, reading the temperature told me that I needed to be worried about bear.
Right.
I was. Now, see, I have a carry permit in the state of Michigan. We're allowed to carry during bow season, as long as you have your ID on your license with you. I will not go into the woods this time of the year if it was as warm as it was, especially as warm as it was. But even if it's as long as it's not snowing yet, I will have it with me, just because you get these rogue bears that all of a sudden, and it's happened. You ask my son Jake when he was about 10 years old, sitting in a tree stand. We were sitting about 20 yards apart, and about a 350-pound black bear sat right at the base of his stand. And ever since then, I've made sure that I've had something with me to make sure that I can, if it push come to shove, I'm not going to be the one going down.
Well, that'll get your attention. Wow. I don't have to worry about that down here.
Yeah. So But no, it was a good time, but it was way too hot. The next morning, I didn't even go out the next morning. I had to go home. I was only going to hunt that half of a day, and I just got up, cleaned up my room, and took care of some stuff there, and came home, because to me it was a waste of my time of putting scent out in the field. I didn't want to carry more scent into the field. I didn't want to disturb the stand again. And potentially push any big buck out of the area that might be in there. To me, it was more advantageous to get work done and go home than it was to sit there and sweat in a stand for half a day.
Had you seen a big buck, though, would you have went out the next day?
Hard to say. Depends on the reaction and what happened. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Right. I said, the mile hike back into there, so that's a commitment.
Yeah. Well, it is too. And that was the other thing is, like, when I got ready to leave. Matter of fact, let's go ahead. Let's take our next break. When we come back, I want to show this system that I used and explain a little bit about it, because I think it's really cool. It might be something that some people are interested in. So step outside, take our next break, and we'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
All right, before we went to break, let's talk a little bit. I'm going to put this picture up, and you can see those two rods there. That's the system that I used to hang stuff in my stand. This would not work on public land in the state of Michigan, because you actually have to screw into the tree. Now, if you look in the picture behind me on my head, you can see my quiver sticking up over my head. So this system I actually use rolls up into this pack. And I don't take the whole thing with me. I just take the pieces that I need. But when you unroll it, this carries all of the gear. And I know it's kind of hard to see because I don't want to hold it up and watch everything fall out of it. But I'll pull a few of the key things out. If you want to make a quiver, use this for a quiver rest on the tree, this part here will actually attach to your quiver. You have to actually tap two holes, drill it in. But what I like about this system is every piece is the same as far as how it attaches. And here is the gist of it.
Does it attach to your stand, or does it attach to the tree?
To the tree, okay.
What's the name of that system? This
is Outright Hunting Products. It is a Morph Pro, I think is how you pronounce it, Morph Pro. I'm actually going to take my camera full here. That way you can see it a little easier. But if you look, I'm hanging on to, this is a threaded, it's just like a screw, okay, with a washer on top. But on the top part of this would fit into a screwdriver, like a Phillips screwdriver that you replace a bit on, take a bit in or out. And this system, I don't have it because it's in my backpack, but it's got a little handle that you put on here, and you push on it and turn, and it ratchets, which I don't like. So I just keep turning it and turning it. I don't use the ratchet because it makes a little bit of noise, not a lot. But once you get this screwed into the tree up tight, this stud is sticking out. And then this has got a slip joint on it. You put that on, and it locks on. So I turn it until I get it in the position I want. This here will pivot. I can add other pieces to it, make it longer. I've got one that's got a hook on the end of it, and I'll use that to hang my backpack on. And I pack in quite a bit of stuff. So when you put the weight on it, this holds it. It is stout. So as long as you don't put it into soft wood, it's going to hold.
You mentioned that you couldn't do this with public land.
You can't attach, or you can't screw or nail into a tree on public land. So. And this is the one little thing I really like. It's like a little claw and ball on top. It's got the same connector, but this is a 1/4-20 thread, and it'll hold any camera adapter, any type of camera plate. So you can use this to actually maneuver a small camera, maybe your cell phone camera, or a lightweight camcorder, small like we use XA20s, Sony XA20s here, 3 pounds or so, and it'll hold it. And the part. Hang on, guys. Let me dig this out real quick. This is what I use for my quiver right here. And this has 3 swivel hooks on it, if you can see that. And I just hang my quiver on that. It's real tight to the tree, easy access. And that's other things. You can put these things anywhere you want. And I've got I don't know, 8 or 10 of those screws. But yeah, that's the system, and I think it's well worth the money. It's expensive, but it's well worth the money. It's lightweight. I just take 3 or 4 different pieces with me, 3 or 4 of those screws, the handle to put it in, and once I get it started, you can actually snap that the bar on it and put it sideways and use this to crank. Use that for the leverage to turn, and that way.
So where do you position yours at? Do you position them above your head?
Yeah, let's go back to the picture here.
That system Mike is showing on the website, it was $129.99.
And I've added stuff to it too. So I mean, I have put a few different pieces. Now you can see the top one there. The top one has the extra stud that hangs down, so I could actually attach another bar to that from the bottom side and position it, in a different position. But as you can see there, my backpack is right at chin level.
Okay.
That's the way I like it. So I can actually reach back into that backpack without even turning around and looking. If I know what compartment I need, and I keep them unzipped on the top, and I just reach down and grab what I need to grab out of it. So that's the way she works. I love it. It's a nice little system that works very, very well, and it's made to last. This will last me the rest of my life. It's made of good quality. Good quality parts, and this is nice and stiff. So if you've got something with weight on it, as long as you've got it level, it's not gonna cant and swing down and drop stuff. It's really cool. So
now, typically, you're mounting all this in the dark, right? Or is it daylight when you get to your stand?
Oh no, it's usually dark. It's usually dark, but
so a good headlamp, because you probably need your hands free. So you need a headlamp.
Yeah, a headlamp. You could use a headlamp, or if you're good enough and you got a small enough flashlight that you can hold it with your teeth. Now this particular day when I went out last week, it was starting to break light enough to where you can see. I mean, if you're outside enough, even at night, if there's enough ambient light, you can start to, your eyes will acclimate and you can actually see things, pretty easily.
Right.
So the sun wasn't coming up at that point, but there was just enough light on the horizon where the sun was, there was enough ambient light from the sunrise coming that I could actually see. So I was a few minutes late getting out.
Now, Mark, do you have a system up in your blind that I know that you hunt from a blind? Do you have a system that you have like mine? I'm in a pop-up typically. I'll have a chair, might have a table with me, something I lay out my spread, binoculars and whatnot.
Yeah. So for me, what I've done in the last few years is any pop-up blind or even an elevated stand, I like to use the 2-person ladder stands. That gives me the extra room. I'm a bigger guy, I'm 6 foot, 270. I like to have that extra seat width to put my backpack on and kind of arrange my stuff if I'm in a ladder stand. I will hang something, off of maybe the stabilizer rail. But the one thing I do with all my stands and all my blinds is I buy usually at a yard sale at an auction, you get a chest cooler that is probably 2 foot long by a foot wide. Or
right.
I put a chest cooler either at the base of my stand or I put it inside my blind. And I store like my seat cushion in it, so I don't have to carry it in the field and back home. I just leave it at the location and get it out when I get there.
Right.
That way, that's one less thing I have to lug back and forth or forget back at the house and then get up in the stand and go, "It's going to be a short sit because I'm not sitting on a cushion."
Mm-hmm.
But I try to keep those coolers at each one of those locations. And it's taken some time. I've got 11 different spots that I hunt. But having a cooler at the stand location or at the blind location, put your gear in there that you need. But then the top of it comes, like you said, Danny, a tabletop, kind of arrange your range finder, your antlers, your call, things like that. But it's a necessity for me to have a little chest cooler in each one of my blinds and under my stand.
Even in a blind, I was thinking about this. We build them out of 2x4. We put, sheathing on the outside of them, roof over top. One of these right here would work. Just putting it next to the window to hang, your binos on, your rangefinder on, or what have you. Or in this circumstance here, you wanna self-film a hunt. Well, if you screw that into the stud, then you've got this camera arm coming out and put your camera up here on top, and maybe you're going to have your rest right here for where you're going to have your shooting ledge. You can reach over and just fire your record button and keep your camera in position where you want it to, right next to your gun. So you could use these in a blind as well. It doesn't have to be on a tree. So there's other options. So
Mark, we do something similar. Like you said, we've got those big utility boxes that you can get. I forget how many quart they are. They're the pretty big ones, and
you can put a body in those. The ones you've got, dude. Those things are huge. I think I could take a nap in one, make a little hut out of it.
Right. The problem is this year Gabby and I were talking. It was first weekend of October, and she walked out in dark, and the box was gone.
Ooh.
Mr. Bear decided to take it into the woods about 30 more yards and pry it open and find out what's in it.
Okay, well, there you go.
So
now you need a refrigerator or like a gun safe out there.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Hey, on a quick story on that, when this was years ago, we were baiting bear for a hunt that I was getting ready to do up there at our place. And, we had the idea of taking a 10-foot, was it 10 foot? 8 foot. 8-foot piece of pipe, like cast iron, 4 or 6 inch round pipe we just had laying around. Got a ladder out there and drove that sucker down in the ground with a sledge. Got it down and it is sticking up maybe 2 feet and put peanut butter inside of it, for the bear. Next time we come back down there, that pipe was gone. Found it laying up the creek, a ways. He drug it. He got a hold of it, rocked it, and pulled that pipe out of the ground, and then took it with him.
Wow.
So that was not a little bear.
No, not at all.
By any stretch of the imagination. But
Must have been some good peanut butter, too.
Yeah, that'll get your attention. So. Hey, listen, guys, we're running up here real quick on our last break, so let's take that. I've got a question for you guys I'd kind of like to go through real quick. You'll know when we get back. So we're going to step outside, we'll take a quick break, be right back for this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
All right, we're back for the last segment of the show, guys and gals. Mark, how long have you been deer hunting?
Wow. 40 years.
40 years, okay. I know you hunt what you call your place now the farm,
right.
Affectionately. That's your domain where you and your brothers go. Do you have a parking area where you all park at and then disperse from there? Or do you have a place where you can hang out, maybe have a campfire or something like that at your place, or no?
Yeah, at the farm, we have a 3-bedroom house. So it's a property that's, since Mom's remarried, she's moved away. So she still comes over every day to check on things. I go down there on the weekends. So we have a place that's basically a house that you can hang out in. And there's a parking area there that kind of congregates too. But yeah, there's a dining room table. We all sit around it. We tell the stories. We get the game plan together. We meet in the driveway the next morning with, all of our stuff ready to roll. But yeah, we've got a spot there, which is nice. It's convenient.
Okay. So, Danny, I know you're set up and you've got a camp and I've got a camp as well. We've got a fire pit outside. Danny's got one. And sounds like you're set up kind of similar. Let me ask you first, Mark, what does a campfire mean for you for deer season at camp? What does that represent and what does it mean to you?
Campfire to me, well, it helps me sleep at night because I like sitting around a campfire and just relax, and that's kind of one of the most great things about it is relaxing. But it's just an opportunity for us to share stories, stories of the past or ideas about the hunt and what's to come. Where am I going to sit? What am I anticipating when we're going to meet the next day? And just the camaraderie around that fire, whether it's just me and the 2 other hunters, or if it's me and their families, and we're just sitting by the fire, kind of enjoying the moment, making that memory. And there's just something about a good fire that just kind of relaxes you. Mm-hmm. You go back and get in bed and get a good night's sleep. So, not every time do we get to have a campfire, but the times that we do, we really just, we really embrace that moment.
Okay. All right. Danny?
Oh my gosh, where to start? Campfires. Whether they're in the middle of the summer on a summer night or in deer camp, whether it be October or November. Oh man, making memories, talking about memories, whether you're one of the older ones in camp or the younger ones in camp. talking about past stories, past hunts, like Mark said, whether you're with, and depending on who you're with, other families, and remember when, or remember other hunters that have passed on, like my dad. And it just, it can be, like you said, Mark, number one, it's relaxing, but it's also therapeutic. When you sit there and you talk it out, or and with everything going on in the world, that just kind of goes away, and you just go into that, listening to the fire crackle, talking, listening to the woods again, whether we're listening to the deer run by or deer come into camp, or maybe we're hearing the coyotes or the wolves singing. It's catching that shooting star. It's catching the Big Dipper. It's catching the Northern Lights. It's all about making memories. It's just one step that you always go back to thinking about in the next year or so. Remember when. But campfires, yeah, they're pretty good.
I look back more, even deeper, back into when I first started hunting with my dad. That's where I really think more about the campfire. And that's, laying in bed and I was sick this week. That's the big thing I was thinking about is, I was thinking about how much deer hunting's changed. I was talking with a good friend of ours, Jim Steffen, who used to be on staff with us here. He's out in Wyoming now. And we talked about that. And he's bringing his daughters up and teaching them about elk camp, and they were putting elk camp together this week. And talking about, cutting wood and putting fire together, to stay warm to cook with. And that's what got me to thinking about this question. And I think when I was younger and I first was old enough to go to deer camp with my dad, I was 14 at the time, my very first hunt. But, I got to go a couple times before that, and I'd sit with them. And you spend all day out in the woods, and you come back, you're tired, your feet are dragging. You're so tired. We used to walk so far, you couldn't pick your feet up anymore. And you run out of food. You just, I want to get back to camp. I just want to sit down by the fire, warm my feet up, and take my boots off and wiggle my toes. And, as you get closer, you start to see the glow. You see the glow around the area where the campfire is. Somebody's already made it. And it's inviting, it's warm, and you just can't wait. And then when you get back, you smell the food cooking. It's not only a place to sit and share stories. It provides warmth. It provides your meal for the day or for the evening. It's all those things encompassed. And then as a kid, I'd pick up stick a stick in the fire and play with it. Hey, stop that. You're going to get burnt. No, I'm all right, Dad. Sure enough, you get burnt because he knows what you're going to do. Yeah, but, and as I got older, it's like you guys say, it's sharing maybe a beer with a buddy or with your dad and swapping stories and saying, man, you're not going to believe what I saw tonight or what I saw today out in the woods, and, or you're sitting on the edge of your seat, and you're leaned over. And as somebody, especially the old timers, as they're telling a story, you start leaning in. And by the end of it, you're really leaned in and you're feeling the heat on you, because you're too close to the fire. But when you're leaned in like that, and you catch yourself and sweat's running off you, the story's good. And to me, that's what campfires are about. It's sharing something that you have in common with your fellow hunter. And I think too many of us are missing those opportunities anymore. It's
funny you say that, because I'm sitting here thinking back to our first deer camp that we had, and I don't remember a fire pit.
You don't
at all. No, I'm gonna have to ask my brother. If we even had one there.
Yeah.
I know when we picked up the new camp we did.
Yeah.
And look what we did here in the beginning of the summer. Mark and Adam came in, and what did we do?
Yeah.
We ended up sitting around a fire, talking.
Yeah. And then we went up to Boyne, or not Boyne, we went up to Crystal Falls or Crystal Mountain for the tack shoot, and your brother and you and I sat around a campfire, and as we say now fondly, it's on the rail.
Right,
exactly. Has a whole new meaning. And for those of you who wonder what that means, you're just going to have to come share a campfire with us. We'll show you.
Exactly. And I think you kind of, and this happens too much. It's we get into that life is too fast thing, but you just got to stop, have that campfire. I like your analogy that you give, because when I go see my cousin Brian, right? We go over to the campground. What are we doing? We're sitting around a fire talking about whatever.
Yep.
What about you, Mark? Besides deer camp, do you have any campfires at other times?
Not really, unless we have the little gas fire place thing outside on the patio that we'll start occasionally and just sit around it in the evening. But for the most part, it's deer season. I'm down there at the farm. My brother lives next door. He'll say, come over to the house, got a fire pit, and his family will come over and we'll just sit around. And typically what happens is we get engrossed in a conversation and everyone's kind of listening in on, we're courteous to one another, say, okay, tell your story, then I'll tell mine. And, we try not to interrupt. But if the song dogs, if the Yotes start to howl, everyone stops and they're like, hey, did you hear that?
Yep.
And everyone, for a moment, we're all quiet. We're just listening to nature, and then we go right back to talking.
Yep.
And then we start in with the I wish. If I had to do this over again, I wish I'd have done that. Man, I wish we could have done this on the property before deer season. And I think we should put a pond back here. And so we start really strategizing the ideal hunting environment. And that's where some of the best plans come from, is around that fire.
Absolutely. Mankind has been around a fire for thousands of years. From the first time you learned how to make fire, to cooking food, and staying warm or whatever, it is still with us. I mean, I love just sitting and staring into the fire, and it's mesmerizing if you watch it.
Yeah.
It almost puts you in a trance. But we need more campfires in our lives. We're set up at camp now at our place. It's like everybody kind of does their own thing at different times. And it's more about, making sure that we have the opportunity to try to get a big buck and not disturb other people. And at times I wonder, are we really missing the boat of what deer camp really is? Are we more interested in deer camp, or are we more interested in putting the biggest set of antlers on the wall, And I really think at my point in my life, I'm past all that. To me, it's more about the experiences and who I can share it with. My grandkids now. I'm looking forward to it. I'm contemplating whether to try to take up my oldest grandson, and I just don't think he's quite old enough yet. But Danny last year, you and I and Gabby shared campfire bow season, and man, it was inside. It was in the stove, but we all had that camaraderie. We sat around, had a few drinks, eat some good food, had some deer heart, and told a bunch of stories. And that's what it's about. Sure, we want to put meat in the freezer. That's the ultimate reason we're there. But sharing it with people, and people just having a good time. Putting aside all the bull crap that's in this world right now, we need to get back to campfires. Because I know when I go camping, it also means s'mores. I love s'mores. So,
and this year for me, this will be our 30th year of going up currently of the deer camp.
Of the one you're at now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of that area, right?
Okay.
We picked up that cabin 20 years ago.
Okay.
And we started going up 10 years prior.
All right.
But the original 80 acres that we started on, it's been 30 years now this year. It'll be 30 years that Brian and I basically are been the constant every year.
This is year 26 at the one I'm at now.
Okay.
It's the 26th season. So.
And Mark, how long you been going?
Well, it's kind of weird because when I was a kid, we had 3 acres that we lived on. And of course, there are not a lot of deer going to be on the 3-acre homestead. So we would hunt on the neighbor's property, and they had like 400 acres. And you'd venture out there and you'd hunt. Didn't really have our own really little place that we owned to hunt. As we got older, I moved to Virginia for 6 years, so I had to find a place down there to hunt. A little different, terrain, a little different strategy because I didn't know the ground very well. It wasn't until after all 4 of us boys grew up and moved out that Dad bought a 60-acre farm. And then that's when we had a place to come home to that we could hunt on the property. So I've been hunting that property, probably 12 years.
Okay.
And I hope to hunt it the rest of my life. I really do.
Well, it's things like that. It's we're fortunate to be able to have places to hunt because, man, I tell you, I talked to my buddy out in Wyoming about. We talked about it this week. He says, "Does anybody even go to deer camp anymore in the state of Michigan?" I'm like, "Yeah, people still do," but I said things have changed, man. Things, even for me, things have changed so much in my life in the last 5 to 10 years that it's not what it was then. It's changed so much. I think we put too much emphasis on shooting the biggest thing that's out there, and I'm not knocking anybody that hunts big bucks. I'm not doing that at all. It's just as you get older and you mature and you get towards the sunset years, there's different things that are is equally as important to you at that point as they were back then. It's just things change, if that makes any sense.
Right.
You know, I'm more worried now, not worried, but more ready to pass this tradition on to my grandchildren. They're not quite there yet, but, you know, in the next couple of years, it's going to happen. And I want to make sure that they get that experience. It's not so much about me. My kids have already had, I've brought them up. They've had their opportunities to cut their teeth on it, and they're at their point in their life now where they're just not able to get out and do it like they want to because of life. So, and I was there one. You know, it'll.
So does that change your strategy when it comes to deer season and setting up blinds and stands?
I don't have to do it anymore. That part of it's changed too. You know, for me, we've totally redone everything at our camp. There was a big split in the camp, and we've redone things, and it's more. The management style is totally different now. And I used to be at the forefront of that, pushing for all of this deer management, land management. And now, you know, because of my recent situation in my home life, I've backed off because I've realized there's more things in life that are important than running up to camp every week and you know, doing timber surveys and land surveys and you know, checking food plots and checking trail cams and all that. It's just, you know, right now, there's other things that are more important to me in life. I guess is what I'm saying. You know, so yeah, I guess my strategy has changed. I'm happy with putting two does in the freezer. If I get a crack at a buck, that's great. But if I don't, was it a successful season? If I got out in the field, yeah, to me that's success.
So talk about your strategy, like bringing grandkids into this space. I mean, there's places that I would take if my wife went hunting with me. Mm-hmm. There are certain stands I would take her to. There are certain places I would not take her to.
Sure.
Because I want that experience to be good.
Yep.
And I want to know that it's easy to get into and get out of.
Yep. Absolutely. 100%. 100% agree with you. You know, and when I go up this next week, when I'm going to, you know, bow hunt 3 days and rifle hunt the last 2 when the season starts. When I'm bow hunting, I can't have my grandson with me. That stand that I've got is the only stand that I've got right now to hunt out of. And that's another reason I didn't want to hunt in it 2 straight days and spread a bunch of sin in the area. But I have no place for him. And, you know, and it's a long walk in. You know, those types of things. If I was only going to go up and do the rifle season and I wasn't going to do anything with the bow season, I would come more near taking him and hunting close to camp. So we could make that short walk. And then maybe, you know, after, you know, 3 hours and he gets antsy, maybe at that point it's time to come back in. I can take that short walk back to camp, get him fed, you know, let him rest, whatever, and then make that evening trek out, you know, versus like going out and sitting all day, you know. I mean, because that's the way I hunt. When I go out, I 99% of the time now I stay out all day if possible. So that's philosophy. I don't know. I guess that's it. So
no, you want to make any new hunter or somebody you're taking out for one of the very first times. You want to make it enjoyable and worth wanting to do it again.
Absolutely.
Whether you know, especially the younger ones, if you're only out there for 2 hours, you know, make it for a fun 2 hours and say, all right, I'm good. Don't you know?
Yep. Yeah, you can't put too much of an expectation on a first-time hunter, you know, if you're taking them out. Even like you say, your wife, you know, you got to set some ground rules. Okay, no perfume. you got to shower either the night before with you know with scent-free soap and shampoo, or you got to do it the next morning before you go out, you know, and you got to stay for a couple hours at least, you know. Don't just run out there and go, oh, okay, I'm bored, it's not daylight yet, let's go. You know, there's got to be an expectation of longevity of time in the stand, you know, and make it as comfortable as possible. You know, we've got...
Well, and the experience, too.
Yeah.
Like, if I was to take my wife, the one place I take her is to the elevated platform blind that we built that's right on the corner of a field that gives you a 270-degree view of field and woods.
Yep, so you can see something.
Your opportunity to see something is greater.
Yep.
Your field of view, there's more to look at. And it's big and spacious in there. It's an 8x8.
Yeah. So
there's room for you to really kind of get comfortable without feeling like you're sitting right on top of each other.
Yep.
And you can get away with a lot more movement because it is a blind versus an open ladder stand. And it's easy to get into because it's got stairs to the back of it. And, you know, making the experience fit the person that's trying to experience it to where they'll be like, yeah, like Danny said, this wasn't too bad. I think I could do this again.
Exactly.
But also showing the importance and critiquing, you know, the expectations of what needs to be done in order to have the best results possible.
Absolutely. So, well, listen, guys, I don't mean to cut anybody short, but we're running out of time. We've run a really long show tonight. Great discussion tonight. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's kind of looking forward to, you know, the passing it on and seeing what we got for this deer season.
Absolutely. So next week, we don't have anybody lined up next week, do we, Danny?
Nope, and it's going to be we're pushing up to. I'm leaving to go up to the UP, and I don't have anybody lined up.
Okay, what are you free next Wednesday night?
Oh yeah, I'll be here.
All right, so we're planning on having a show. I shouldn't have to say this to everybody, but get out and vote, because next Tuesday is the vote. And I know most everybody here is probably of one side of the coin, but it doesn't matter if you're the other side of the coin. I don't care. Get out and vote. Everybody deserves that privilege to be able to get out and do it. So make sure you get out Tuesday and punch them tags. So for everybody else, if you're watching or listening to us on the podcast, obviously we showed some pictures of things tonight and talked about some stuff that you couldn't see. You know, Danny's going to have the YouTube version up Wednesday, Thursday-ish. No, I'm sorry.
Yep.
This is Wednesday.
This weekend. It'll go up sometime over the weekend.
Yeah.
When you're watching the YouTube, just hit the subscribe button. That helps us out. And absolutely.
Yep. And for those of you who are watching the show, do the same thing for us here. Smash that subscribe button and the like button. Share the show for us as well here on, if you're watching us on Facebook. If you're seeing the other social media outlets that we're on, make sure you do the same thing for us there. That helps us and helps the people who support us in return. But if you are a podcast listener and you're over on iTunes, give us a review. That helps the people who help us. So we really appreciate it. So if you're in the stand this week, make sure tie in on the way up, lock in when you're at the top. And I had to make sure I had all my climbing gear and ready to go. And you guys, it just can't be safe enough. So please do that. And we'll be back again next Wednesday night, 7:30, same time, y'all. Y'all take care, and we'll see y'all next week. This episode was brought to you by PSE Archery,
Deer Camp Coffee,
Buck Baits,
JPO Game Calls,
The Island Armory,
Hacker Max,
Sunrise Archery,
and C3 Better the Hunt Technology.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe. Until next week on the Up North Journal.